Today's visa freeze is tomorrow's remittance deadline. Families that cannot reunify in America will not establish a stable employment and residence that sustain regular money transfer home. Highly skilled Ghanaians like doctors, nurses, IT professionals, lawyers, who would have lawfully joined the diaspora and contributed to these flows or to this flow will remain here. But so too will the caregivers, the service workers, the construction laborers, the agricultural workers, whose honest toil in America sustain an entire village, an entire community back home. Nations, we are told, or we must remember, are built by a combination of citizens both at home and abroad, each contributing according to their capacity, each vital to the whole. This visa freeze attacks that partnership and diminishes us all. Or worse, they will seek opportunities in countries less invested in Ghana's success. The foreign minister's megaphone diplomacy has put billions of dollars in an annual remittance at risk. And for what? So that he can play the strong man on television, so he can harvest social media applauses, whilst Ghanaians' families suffer in silence. The architect behind this disaster. Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to the people of Ghana today that this humiliation, this economic threat, this decimation of our international reputation bears the fingerprint of one man, and that man is Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. I do not make these accusations lightly. I make it on the basis of documented, undeniable pattern of reckless, immature, and diplomatically illiterate conduct that has systematically eroded Ghana's standing with our most important allies. Let us be clear. This pattern began before he assumed office as a minister. Then he was an opposition MP. Mr. Ablakwa, hiding behind the so-called Operation Recover All Loot, ORA, promoted a false and a harmful lie that over 21 billion have been stolen or lost from the state. This reckless allegation damaged Ghana's credit rating and eroded international investor confidence. Now the Attorney General, Dominic Ayeni, is pleading with NDC supporters to be patient regarding ORA. Tellingly, a member of the very committee that produced the document, Daniel Yao Domilevu, a former Auditor General of Ghana, has reportedly confirmed that ORA merely compiled gossip, rumors, and unsubstantiated information, presenting it as evidence of corruption without any verification. In his own words, it was garbage. Tragically, Okudzeto Ablakwa is the man now representing Ghana to the world, a man whose relationship with truth has always been casual and whose instinct has always been to prioritize sensation over substance. Now the pattern, and listen carefully, this is where the pattern is. Let me examine the evidence. First, the American file. For months, Ghana has faced sustained questions from Washington about deportation cooperation, documentation of nationals abroad, the commercial dispute involving American firms. These are technical matters, the everyday business of bilateral relations that mature diplomats resolve through quiet, sustained engagement with Department of Homeland, Immigration and Custom Enforcement, and State Department consular desks. But what did our reckless and incompetent foreign minister do? Did he deploy our embassy in Washington to engage systematically with the relevant agencies? Did he assign senior technical staff to work through the issues file by file and case by case? Did he ring-fence Ghana's vital mobility interests by demonstrating our reliability and good faith? Apparently not. He chose theater over diplomacy. He issued sharp, personalized public rebuttal He conflated legitimate debt discussion with sovereignty rhetorics. He allowed what should have been managed as technical cooperation to become political confrontation. And worst of all, he failed utterly to anticipate that a Trump administration with a documented history of using visa tools coercively would place Ghana exactly where we find ourselves today, this punitive list. Now, ignorance is a pattern of negligence. Negligence that harms millions is grounds for removal from office. Now let's look at the Israel debacle. But perhaps the foreign minister's most revealing failure came in December 2025 with the Israel deportation fiasco. On 7th December, 3 Ghanaian nationals, including conference attendees and a pilgrim, were deported from Ben Gurion Airport. 4 members of parliamentary delegation were repeatedly detained for 5 hours. This is undoubtedly humiliating and utterly unacceptable. It is undoubtedly requires a strong protest, a demand for official apology, with a guarantee that such an episode would never ever happen again. But what did the Minister for Foreign Affairs do? Before exhausting protest notes, before senior level diplomatic demarches, before any joint investigation to establish facts and prevent reoccurrence, he ordered the immediate deportation of 3 Israelis who had just landed in Accra. Not quietly, not after careful and exhaustive deliberations, but as a public spectacle, announced on social media, framed as reciprocal action, and accompanied by the declaration henceforth that for every Ghanaian deported, an Israeli will be deported too. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be brutally honest about this, about what this represents. It is not strength. It is petulance. It is not sovereignty. It is showmanship. It is not diplomacy. It is diplomatic equivalent of a street brawl. It is crass incompetence. Let me be absolutely clear. Ghana has every right under international laws to protect its sovereignty and defend the dignity of its citizens. No nation should tolerate the arbitrary mistreatment of its members, of its nationals abroad. However, there is a principle equally vital. The principle is diplomatic language and emotional balance. Sovereignty is best defended not by theatrical gestures, but through measured strategic response that achieves real-time results. The minister mistook justified anger for justified actions, and Ghanaians has paid the price. Do you know what professional diplomats call turning ordinary travelers into bargaining chip? A violation of basic consular norms. Do you know what serious governments do when they see another government threatening tit for tat deportation as public policy? They conclude that that government is unpredictable, that government is emotional, and that government is unsuited for quiet trust and mature bilateral relations. And predictably, Israel claimed that Ghana's own embassy in Tel Aviv had been uncooperative on migration matters, a claim our minister or our foreign minister dismissed as totally untenable. Even while simultaneously briefing Israeli officials had apologized and sought de-escalation, which is it? Are the Israelis lying or are they apologizing? Can our foreign minister not even keep his own narrative straight? Now, another issue which is very important is the European contradiction. The tragedy is compounded by profound diplomatic failure by Ghana. Now listen, barely 6 months ago, Ghana has been celebrated by European Union as a serious, stable, strategic partner. Yet today we find ourselves on the Washington list for enhanced vetting. How does a country fall from noble partner to migration risk in 6 months? The answer lies not in the change in our stature, but in the fundamental failure of strategy and execution by our foreign minister. A competent diplomatic strategy would have immediately mobilized our allies, our European allies. The goal was clear: leverage on our strong ties with London, with Paris, with Berlin, with Brussels, and many other more allies we have in the European Union to advocate for Ghana in Washington. Use our AGUA partnership and security cooperation as buffer against punitive migration measures. Instead, we witness diplomatic malpractice. At the precise moment we needed Europeans' goodwill and active lobbying, our foreign minister signaled that their counsel was disposable by rushing to effectively endorse President Trump's Gaza proposal ahead of and without consultation with key European partners and our allies. He communicated reckless independence. He told Europe that Ghana prioritizes domestic applause over professional discretion and coordinated transatlantic action. He made it politically impossible for them to spend capital advocating for Ghana by that singular decision or singular statement he made. The pattern that undermines alliance. Sovereignty is not exercised in isolation. Responsible statecraft on volatile issues like Gaza and migration requires proud consultation, attentiveness to allied position, and language that preserves space for coordination. But locking Ghana into early, absolutist position and turning complex issues into public confrontation, the minister has demonstrated a pattern that makes reliable partnership untenable. The issue is not that Ghana speaks, no. The issue is that under this minister, Ghana speaks too quickly, too absolutely, too recklessly, and too alone. You cannot disregard partners on Gaza, antagonize Washington on immigration, stage theatrical deportations, and then expect Brussels to rally to your defense. Diplomacy does not work that way. Now, the core failure. The point therefore is not that the minister expected Europe to lobby for us. It is that systematically dismantled the very possibility of that support by that statement. By treating alignment with our most important multilateral partners as optional, he failed to do the fundamental job of the foreign minister: to leverage relationship to protect national interests, to conduct all public posture and no private discipline has left Ghana's needlessly exposed. It falls catastrophically below standard required of the Republic's chief diplomats. And this must stop. Why this minister is unfit for office? Ladies and gentlemen of the press, I have spent considerable time laying out the evidence because I want the nation to understand that I am not engaging in bipartisan hyperbole. I am making a sober, evidence-based case that the current foreign minister, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, has demonstrated through a pattern of actions and outcomes that he lacks the temperament, the judgment, the competence for the office he holds. We need only look to our history for the standard we should demand. The distinguished Ghanaians like Akuaje, Kwame Nkrumah, Victor Usu, Obediawa Samoa, James Victor Gbehu, Hakman Owusu Ajiman, Nana Adodankwa Akufo-Addo, Mohammed Mumuni, Hannah Tete, Shelley Ayoko Botwe, and just to mention a few, served as foreign ministers with the clarity of vision for Ghana. That vision was realized not through bombasts, but through distinctions of character, tactical intellect, steady temperament, and unwavering professional rigor. They understood that Ghana's influence is earned through reliability, not theatrics. They knew what our sovereignty is defended through strategic patience, not impulsive gestures. Unfortunately, the current minister's failure catastrophically short of these standards that I have mentioned of all the noble men and women that have held the position before him. We all witnessed his belligerence and hot-headedness during his vetting process. We sounded the alarm then, but many Ghanaians dismissed our concern as mere politics. Under his tenure as Ghana's chief diplomat, our nation's international reputation is collapsing. Let me be specific. Number one, he chose confrontation over negotiation. In both the American and the Israeli case, the minister's first instinct was not to deploy the tool of professional diplomacy, demiche, technical working group, senior level consultation, but to reach for public confrontation, social media talking points, and symbolic retaliations. This may generate short-term applause in certain quarters. It may make good for headlines, but it predictably generates long-term costs. Partners conclude that Ghana is difficult, Ghana is emotional, and Ghana is unreliable, and precisely that's the issue. Migration, visa, deportation, where technocratic cooperation is most valued. 2, he has neglected early warning signs and risk management. The United States had used visa sanctions against Ghana before. We know this playbook. Any competent foreign minister should have been monitoring Trump's administration migration rhetorics from day one, conducting scenario planning, engaging Washington quietly to keep Ghana off an expanded list. Where was that work? Where were the contingency plan? Where was the diplomatic intelligence that should have told us this was coming? The answer is it was never done, because the minister prefers reckless actions to careful preparation and gestures to strategy. Number 3, he has damaged Ghana's hard-won reputation. For decades, Ghana has been respected as a measured, rules-based, law-abiding small state that uses multilateral forums and quiet diplomacy to advance its interests. We have been the voice of reason in ECOWAS. We have been the Pan-African nation that Western partners would work with without drama. The reputation built over decades by diplomats and leaders who understood the value of trust and predictability is being systematically eroded by a minister who thinks strength is measured in decibels rather than outcomes. Number 4, he had failed to protect Ghanaians. The core duty of a foreign minister is not to win rhetoric battles on social media. It's to safeguard the long-term interest and welfare of its citizens. Instead, the minister's conduct has contributed directly to an environment in which law-abiding Ghanaians are told that their migration visa will not be processed indefinitely. And the bitter irony, this outcome coincides with aggressive messaging at home about standing up for foreign powers or standing up to foreign powers. Clearly, this exposes the cruel gap between the theater of sovereignty and the lived reality of families whose future have been frozen. Number 5, he has squandered strategic partnership. Despite positive relations with the EU, despite continued U.S. engagement through AGUA, the foreign minister has not successfully mobilized Ghana's friends to shield us or advocate for us in Washington. He has not demonstrated any ability to compartmentalize disputes so that one mismanaged incident does not poison the well of broader cooperation. This is not diplomacy. This is malpractice. This is incompetence. The demand of the minority caucus. So, ladies and gentlemen, I put the demands of the minority caucus before you. The minority caucus make the following demands of the President Mahama government. Demand 1, immediate public accountability. Within 7 days, the Foreign Ministry must hold a comprehensive press conference to address all communications between Ghana and the United States regarding migration cooperation, deportation issues, and visa processing over the past 18 months. 2, specific reasons given by the Washington for including Ghana on the 75-country list. 4, the ministry strategy, if any, exists to ensure Ghana's removal from that list. 5, full accounting of remittance projections and economic impact assessment of the visa freeze. Let me state that we intend to file a question to compel the government to answer for these when Parliament resumes. Demand number 2, restore professional diplomatic practice. The government must immediately establish a high-level technical working group with the United States to address all outstanding migration documentation and consular cooperation issues. Withdraw the public policy of tit for tat deportation with Israel and restore normal consular relations based on established international practice. 3, appoint a special envoy for diaspora and migration affairs, reporting directly to the president, to manage these sensitive files with the seriousness it deserves. Demand number 3, accountability and leadership change. To Your Excellency, President John Mahama, we say we cannot continue down this path. The national interest demand change. The welfare of millions of Ghanaians demand it. Ghana's reputation in the world demand it. Your foreign minister have outlived his usefulness. He has demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt that he lacks the temperament to manage complex bilateral relations. He has shown that he values applause over achievement, rhetorics over results, and most damningly, his pattern of reckless diplomacy has made Ghana less safe, less respected, and more vulnerable on the international stage. The minority therefore calls on you, Your Excellency, to remove Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa from the foreign minister's portfolio immediately and appoint in place a competent diplomat, a proven experience, a steady judgment, and a genuine person of commitment to Ghana's long-term standing interests over personal political theater. Furthermore, we call on civil society organizations, professional associations, diaspora groups, and all patriotic Ghanaians to add their voice to this demand. This is not partisan matters. It is a matter of national survival. Now, beyond the removal of the minister, urgent steps are required. So, firing the minister while it's necessary is insufficient move by President Mahama. Must act decisively on multiple fronts. First, he must deploy a presidential special envoy to Washington immediately. This cannot wait for normal channels. The president must send a respected, trusted senior figure with direct authority to negotiate Ghana's removal from this list in a way that is mutually beneficial. Second, we must establish a technical task force linking our Ministry of Foreign Affairs to the Interior Ministry and to the Ministry of Justice to address American concern on deportation, cooperation, and documentation. Full transparency, full cooperation, no excuses. Third, mobilize ECOWAS, AU, EU partners to advocate collectively for Ghana in Washington demonstrates that this affects regional stability and economic cooperation. Fourth, engage U.S. Congress directly. The Congress. Ghana must engage the Congress directly, particularly the American lawmakers who value AGUA, and security partnership must understand the damage this freeze is causing to us. But here, it is brutal reality we face. As I speak, Washington does not have a substantive ambassador to Ghana, and this is a serious issue. Think about it. What is the signal? What does it tell you? That Trump's administration has left a post vacant. They have downgraded Ghana's priority. They have communicated through absence that our relationship with U.S. no longer merits senior attention. This is the diplomatic price of reckless conduct, and that is why Ghana cannot afford another day of this foreign minister's incompetence and failure in office. The complicit ambassador in Washington. Now I'm done with the minister. I'm dealing with the ambassador in Washington. Now the complicit ambassador in Washington. But let me also address the spectacular failure of Ghana's ambassador to the United States, His Excellency Victor Emmanuel Smith. At this crucial or critical moment, when Ghana faces indefinite visa freeze, threatening billions of remittance, where is our ambassador? Is he burning midnight oil at the State Department, pressing for meeting with senior officers? Is he mobilizing congressional allies to advocate for Ghana's removal from this list? Is he engaging the Department of Homeland Security to address their concern? The answer appears to be a big no. Instead, Ambassador Smith is preoccupied with issuing press statements to irresponsibly disclose private details regarding consular services his office allegedly sought to provide to detain former Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta. Read this again. While Ghana bends diplomatically, our ambassador to Washington is engaged in petty political score settling, breaching the confidentiality that consular services requires, and dragging Ghana's mission into bipartisan domestic battles. This is not just unprofessional. It is a dereliction of duty. It is another case of incompetence. Ambassador Smith has apparently forgotten that his job is not to be the government propaganda chief in America. His job is to protect Ghana's interest in Washington, to engage, to negotiate, to prevent disasters like this visa freeze. He has failed catastrophically. President Mahama must recall him immediately. Ghana cannot afford ambassadors who prioritizes press release breaching confidentiality on consular services over diplomatic engagement when our national interests hang in the balance. In conclusion, what is at stake? Ladies and gentlemen, let me close this with Ghana does not have the luxury of treating foreign policy as performance art or theater art. We are small, open economy, deeply integrated into global systems of trade, investment, and migration. Our influence comes not from bluster, but from reliability, professionalism, and a patient accumulation of trust. When our foreign minister threatens reciprocal deportation on live television, he may trail a certain audience, but in the chancelleries or foreign ministries around the world, officials take notes and they adjust their risk management assessment of Ghana accordingly. They know, and I know some will argue that the freezing of U.S. migration visa processes for Ghana should be a message to us, a message for us to work harder, build a truly developed and advanced nation, a Ghana that rewards hard work, realizes dreams of our forebears, honors the aspiration of our citizens. Itself becomes a fulfillment destination for the world. That argument makes sense, absolutely makes sense. And I do not reject that argument, that we must work hard as a country and build our own country. I do not reject this argument. However, we also know that the true purpose of many of our compatriots is to step up into international research centers in Boston, Washington, New York, Texas, and others. This goal is to help pioneers or help.
Hello and welcome to Newsfeed on Channel 1.